It's December 1942. Inside a shattered city on the Volga River, a German soldier writes home. He tells his family the war is already lost. He just doesn't know if anyone will believe him. Outside his window, gunfire echoes through the ruins, and snow falls silently over a city that used to have a name. He's right, and in a few weeks, so will the rest of the world. World War II was fought across 6 years, 6 continents, and dozens of battlefields. But only a handful of those battles actually decided who would win. The rest were just consequences. This is the story of 4 battles that changed everything. By 1940, Adolf Hitler controlled more of Europe than any leader since Napoleon. Nazi Germany looked unstoppable. Japan was carving out an empire across the Pacific, and for a terrifying stretch of years, it seemed entirely possible the Axis powers could win the Second World War. They didn't, and it wasn't one dramatic final battle that decided it. It was 4 separate turning points on 4 separate fronts. The skies over Britain, the ruins of Stalingrad, the waters near Midway, and the beaches of Normandy. Let's go through them one at a time. After France fell in June 1940, Britain stood alone. Hitler's plan for invasion, codenamed Operation Sea Lion, depended on one thing above all: control of the skies. Without air superiority, a German invasion fleet crossing the English Channel would be slaughtered before it ever reached the shore. So the Luftwaffe attacked. Wave after wave of bombers targeted British airfields, radar stations, and eventually London itself, trying to break the Royal Air Force and the will of the British people. But Britain had an early warning radar system that let its fighters scramble at exactly the right moment. The pilots flew Spitfires and Hurricanes in brutal, exhausting rotations, week after week, through the summer and fall of 1940. By October, the Luftwaffe had lost more aircraft than Britain had, and Hitler quietly shelved the invasion of the British Isles for good. This mattered far beyond 1940. Britain remained in the war, as a base for Allied bombing campaigns, and later as the staging ground for the invasion that would liberate Western Europe. Frustrated in the West, Hitler turned his ambitions east toward the Soviet Union. In the summer of 1942, German forces pushed deep into southern Russia, aiming to seize the city of Stalingrad, an industrial hub on the Volga River and a symbolic prize bearing Stalin's own name. What followed was some of the most brutal urban combat in human history. Soldiers fought street by street, building by building, sometimes floor by floor within the same structure. Soviet snipers turned the rubble into killing fields. The Germans called it Rattenkrieg, the Rat War. By November, German forces had pushed deep into the city, but they were dangerously overextended. That's when the Soviets sprang their trap, Operation Uranus. Soviet troops smashed through the weaker Romanian and Italian units guarding the German flanks, encircling roughly 300,000 Axis soldiers inside the city. Hitler refused to allow a retreat, ordering his commander to fight to the last man. Trapped, starving, and freezing in temperatures below -20, the German Sixth Army held out for weeks before finally surrendering in February 1943, the first time a German field army had surrendered in the entire war. The losses were staggering, well over 1 million casualties combined. But the strategic result was clear. Germany's offensive power on the Eastern Front was broken for good. From Stalingrad onward, the Soviet Red Army was on the advance, and it would not stop until it reached Berlin. Half a world away, another battle was about to unfold. 6 months after Pearl Harbor, Japan appeared unstoppable across the Pacific. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto planned to finish the job, luring America's remaining aircraft carriers into a decisive battle near Midway Atoll and destroying them for good. But the United States had cracked Japan's naval communications. American codebreakers knew the attack was coming and roughly when and where. On June 4, 1942, American dive bombers caught Japan's carrier fleet in the worst possible moment, refueling and rearming aircraft on open decks. In minutes, 3 Japanese carriers were left burning. A 4th would be sunk before the day was done. Japan lost 4 fleet carriers and hundreds of its most experienced pilots, losses that could not be replaced quickly enough to keep pace with growing American industrial output. It was a devastating, irreversible blow. Midway didn't end the war in the Pacific. Brutal island-hopping campaigns lay ahead for another 3 years, but it ended Japan's ability to go on the offensive. From this point forward, the United States held the initiative in the Pacific, and it never gave it back. By 1944, the Soviets were grinding westward from the east, but Allied leaders knew Germany couldn't be defeated without a direct assault on occupied Western Europe. 3 fronts were down. The war in Europe needed one final blow, a second front to trap Germany
On
between
June 6,
two armies.
1944, D-Day, nearly 160,000 Allied troops landed across 5 beaches in Normandy, France, backed by thousands of ships and aircraft in the largest amphibious invasion in history. Paratroopers dropped behind enemy lines overnight to secure key positions before the sun rose. Massive wide shot of Allied landing craft approaching Normandy beaches at dawn. The fighting was ferocious, especially at Omaha Beach, where American troops faced entrenched German defenses under murderous fire. But by the end of the day, the Allies had a foothold in France they would never relinquish. Soldiers waded through waist-deep water toward Omaha Beach under relentless gunfire, smoke choking the air around them. It was some of the most brutal fighting of the entire war, but the beachhead held, and it would never be given back. Over the following weeks, Allied forces fought through the hedgerows of Normandy, gradually breaking out and beginning the liberation of France. Germany was now fighting a 2-front war it had no realistic way of winning, squeezed between armies advancing from the east and the west. Berlin would fall less than a year later. Look at what these 4 battles actually did. Britain denied Hitler control of the air and the west. Stalingrad broke Germany's offensive power in the east. Midway ended Japan's ability to expand in the Pacific. Normandy opened the final front. 4 different battles, 4 different continents, 4 different armies, but together they closed off every single path the Axis powers had left to victory. Which of these battles deserves its own deep dive? Let me know in the comments and subscribe to Global History Uncovered.